I am Farooq Saleem, and this is the story for the Colorful Heritage Project. I was born in India, Hyderabad, Deccan, in 1943. It was a very painful journey. We left Hyderabad and we went to India, northern India, where Agra, the city of Agra, we lived there for some time. Then we went to Delhi, and from Delhi we went to Deoband. We stayed there about 6 months. Then the police started chasing our relatives there, saying that these Pakistani people are living here. So we were taken from Deoband to India's border, India and Pakistani border. I think I was very young at that time. With me, my elder brother and my younger sister. There were 3 of us. So we were left at the border, and the border police took us and the camp. We stood in a big queue with other people who were going to Pakistan, and it was very cold morning or evening. We crossed the border after about few hours. The police took all the money from us. They took our clothing. So in pajama and kameez or shirt, we were allowed to go to Pakistan. So we went to Pakistan border, and from there we walked about a mile or so to the Pakistani camp, which is called Kokrapar. And we slept, 3 of us slept in the sand, hugged each other to give us warmth, and then we went to sleep. In the morning, we were told to go and make a queue to get some flour. We went to a small juggi type cafe or tandoor. We gave that order to them, and he said he wanted money from us. We said we have no money. So he said, okay, I will keep 1 chapati or 1 roti from your atta. I said, okay. He gave us some dal to eat that. So we came back and we just sat down on the sand and then we ate. And that was my bitter experience. My father went to Pakistan just before we went there, because he went and he wanted to look around for a place to take us over there. So, but we did not know where he was at that time. My father was very active political gentleman, whereas he was a civil engineer. And after the fall of Hyderabad, Deccan, when the India started arresting people who were involved in politics of India and Pakistan. My father was very warmly involved with the Muslim League government. So his warrants were issued in early 1951 for his arrest. And the gentleman who was leading the party of that Congress party, who was signing the warrant of arrest, he was a Hindu, or Marwari you can say. So he was a good friend of my father, and he came to my father. He signed the warrant of arrest for him, and then he came to warn him, and he said, leave this place immediately because tomorrow morning you will be arrested. And his car took us at the border of Hyderabad, Deccan, and he left us over there, where we took a train to Agra. That's how we left everything in Hyderabad, in our house, and we left without penniless. In 1959, I decided to come, or I myself decided to come to UK for my higher education, and my father helped me to come here because he wanted me to become as an engineer to take over his business. December 1960 I left Karachi and arrived on 1st of January 1961 at Liverpool because I came by ship. So, and then from Liverpool I took a train and went to Glasgow, where I was given the admission. And there was a friend of mine who rented a room for me in Maxwell Road. I was very anxious to come to leave Pakistan for higher education, especially to come to London, because my father was educated in London, my grandfather was educated as civil engineer there. So I was very anxious to come over here and do the same. My expectation before I arrived to UK was very high. I used to think that roads are must be very cleaned, washed, like glass roads all the way. Houses will be very modern and up to date. And when I came over here, I was very much disappointed to see that India's houses were far better than UK's houses and flats. When I went to Inverness and we went to that mountain and just for a holiday period, and I saw there was no toilet. So there was a book lying in one of the small room. So I wrote my comments in that book that Tarzan goes to jungle, not in India but in UK, for toilet facilities. I hope that note is still there. When I first arrived, I just joined the college, and in summer holidays I used to work along with all the other students as conductor in the buses. When I was a student, that was early 60s, when I was a student, I used to go to there was only two entertainment for us, two society for the entertainment was us. One was Pakistan Cultural Society, and the other one was Indian Film Society. So both of them were showing films, Indian films, into their cinema halls, or they were hiring cinema halls. So one day when I went there to buy Pakistan Society film, to see the film, I was told that I had to pay full fare, full ticket, and there was no concession left for the students. And we started a Asian Youth Film Society. So Asian Youth Film Society became more popular than the Pakistan and Indian Film Society. I can tell you about the people living in Glasgow. They were very warm-hearted people, and they used to think us, I mean Pakistanis at that time, that everybody is a doctor. So it was difficult to tell them that we are all not doctors. So that was a good image we created in those days in the local people. Now I got married to Farah's mum in 1973. I met her in Glasgow. She was from Tanzania. She was a student here, and then we decided to marry. So we went to Tanzania. We got married over there and came back to live here. Oh, that is a very critical question. No. At the moment we have 3 children, 2 daughters, and youngest one is Faraz, the son, my son. I think they are quite happy, and they never told me any worse thing about Scottish people. They had good friends and they had enjoyed their studentship. I think the first generation was in love of Pakistan and Pakistan heritage and culture. And we used to sacrifice everything for Pakistan. And now the new generation, either they didn't want to know Pakistan or they are not interested in Pakistan. They were not visiting Pakistan regularly. Either they didn't visit at all or they visited very few times in their life. And when they go there, the language problem always come in between of them and the Pakistani friends. So I think that was they are not very much interested in Pakistan. I think in 1970s when the families started coming into UK, at that time we realized that we should have our own heritage, our own culture, our own language, and we started giving Urdu lessons to our children in schools and education, Islamic education in mosque and privately. That time was the time when we, as a community, felt our responsibilities. In early days, when I was here in early 60s, as I said, Scottish people or Glasgow people were very innocent. They used to ask us, what religion do you, are you Christian Muslim, are you Christian Hindu or what? So they did not know the difference between Muslim and Christians. I think after 70, 74, when most of the families arrived and population grown up, then this awareness and the local people started. We had a small room in 1960, a small room in Garbles, and first story, one up, and that small room was converted into the mosque. A community started raising funds in 1962-63 for a bigger mosque, and we used to give half a crown every week to the mosque. I think it was in 1970s. The first central mosque was opened. In late 60s, there was rarely any news was available here from Pakistan. We used to listen to the BBC Urdu service on the radios to know what is happening in Pakistan. So I published the first ever published outside India and Pakistan, the Urdu newspaper, which is called Urdu Times. The Menzies and Smith and these firms who are distributors of the newspaper and magazines, they didn't want to touch my newspaper. So I had to send my newspaper to the local shops, the grocery shops, and they were selling Urdu newspaper to the Pakistani community. So that was a difficult part of me, making agents in every big city and sending newspaper through the trains, railway, and they were picking from the stations and distributing to the shops, which I closed my newspaper due to financial problems and distribution problems in 1969. After leaving that publishing, I started a cash and carry in those days, and then I started doing other businesses. Because I was living alone with my sister arrived afterwards, so I used to starve all day because I was not cooking myself. So I thought it's better to open a restaurant while I was running the cash and carry. I said at least I will go and eat something in the restaurant. So I opened a restaurant in Byers Road. So in 1971. So that's how I started a restaurant and my cash and carry. In late 60s, there were only a Labour Party was there where Pakistanis were joining them. There were some Pakistani Pakistani community leaders, they joined Labour Party, and nobody was representing the Conservative Party. And I was very fond of Conservative Party's policies. So I thought it's better to join the Conservative Party and help them to spread the Conservative Party into our own community. I used to convince them that, look, any law, immigration law was passed, it was passed during the Labour Party government, not in Conservative Party. I used to tell them, all the community people, that join the local indigenous political parties rather than joining the Pakistani-made the political parties. Pay your services to them, and that will help us living here rather than you're fighting for the other Pakistani parties. That won't help us here. When we started going into the political parties' offices inside and constituencies offices, there a lot of misunderstanding they used to have. That was, we were able to take that misunderstanding out of their minds, and that help us to become more friendly toward the local indigenous population. And Pakistani people were able to express their opinion about the country, about the politics, about the religion, and the local people were listening to them. When I joined the Conservative Party and I started working for them, and I gathered more Pakistanis joining Conservative Party, then in those days a very famous member of parliament was living in Glasgow, whose name was Teddy Taylor. He was very pro-Pakistanis, and he was coming into all Pakistani functions. And so I became very friendly with him. And first advice he gave me was to establish myself financially, then join the political party. That's how I met Margaret Thatcher in a central office of Conservative in London with him. And she talked to me for a few minutes, and then she said, why don't you join the Anglo-Asian Conservative Society? And I became vice chairman, and she was the chairman of the party. So that's how we started meeting more oftenly afterwards there. And Margaret Thatcher became quite friendly with me because of solving the different problems from the Pakistani community. Margaret Thatcher once introduced a law to ban all those the people coming into Britain who were married into the other countries, people like Pakistani or Indian. And I opposed that bill very strictly, and I had a discussion with her and with other ministers that law is going to make a lot of problems for the immigrant community. After the bill became law, African nurse living in UK, in London, she got married to an African man, and she wanted to bring that African man or husband into this country, and that law stopped her, and both of us joined this and brought some more people into it, and we sued the government, UK government. So that law was ordered by the European court to abolish that law, and Margaret Thatcher was very, very angry on me. She shouted at me, and after just a couple of years, Margaret Thatcher's daughter got married to one of the Australian men, and she wanted to bring her husband to UK. At that time I had the opportunity to go and see her, Margaret Thatcher, and remind her that look, your law was going to stop your own daughter, not to bring her husband into this country. What do you say now? Oh, she just kept quiet. After some disagreement with my own Conservative Party on the policies, I become sympathetic to SNP, and I met Alex Salmond, and I offered him that if he become a guest of our friends, we wanted to invite him. If he accept that invitation, then we would like to start working for the SNP. So he agreed that idea, and when we formed one SNP branch in our community, and I offered, Alex Salmond asked me to become myself involved in that society. I said I cannot, because I don't want to be blamed by leaving Conservative and joining SNP, but I would be helping you in the back way, and we will give you a good friend of mine to help you and form the Asian Society for the SNP. I offered him Mr. Bashir Ahmed to form the society and lead that work, and Bashir became first member of Assembly, Scottish Assembly. That's how now we have a lot of Pakistanis joined the SNP. Now we have also another, after Bashir expired, we have another Pakistani member of Assembly. Right. I went to Pakistan. I established one factory in Karachi that is a compost fertilizer, and it was a very big company in Pakistan, in Karachi. And while I was doing that work in the country, in my factory, in 1985, these non-party basis election was announced, and so I thought to go into politics and Pakistani politics, and I stood for the parliamentary seat from my area. And my experience was there was rigging on a very high level in Pakistan during the election time. When I met President Zia-ul Haq after the election, and he laughed at me and he said, Mr. Saleem, if you want a good life, do the politics in London and business in Pakistan, because without going to jail, you won't be successful candidate for the parliament. That was his remarks to me. The newspaper over here in UK, local newspaper, they used to print Pakistani news about Zia. The headline always taken for President Zia, and at the bottom they used to say all nonsense. So I used to feel very bad about it, that Pakistani name is getting bad name all the time. I spoke to Teddy Taylor, and I told him that I want to start a campaign in favor of President Zia, and so that we can offer him some good ideas how to become a good president. So he arranged a conference in the cafeteria, and I went there. I launched a Support Zia campaign over there, and it was printed in every newspaper. Support a democratic party is supporting a martial law dictator. I went to the Pakistan embassy, and I spoke to the information minister there at that time, Mr. Qutbuddin Aziz, and I told him that, look, we want to establish a society for the press, so that we send any newsprint, it goes through that society, Pakistan Media Committee, so they will use it rather than going in my name. So we established one media committee in Pakistan Embassy, and that media committee started sending news to the newspaper, and that way we brought the two together and some good understanding. That news went to President Zia, and when he was visiting United Nations for giving some speech over there, so I invited him to come to London. So he asked me to see him at the hotel. He gave me a piece of paper. He put his private telephone numbers on it, and he said, "Look, Mr. Saleem, keep it, and anytime you need me, phone me on these numbers. These are private and it comes to me direct." I said, "Thank you very much." And then he invited me as a state guest with my friends. So 6 of us went to Pakistan as his guest, and we had a visit from Karachi to Peshawar. We enjoyed it, and there I asked him to organize 2 different kind of parties and guests. One from the young students, a delegation from young students from UK go to Pakistan and take them officially to show them Pakistan how it looks like, so that they have an idea that Pakistan is a great country. So, and the other one is to invite a delegation from police authorities, because most of the time in those days police was taking action against Pakistanis because of the language problem. Police always had misunderstanding with the Pakistani groups. So he agreed. So that was a great help towards the community and the indigenous community.